I had words to make a day for you, I'd sing you a morning, golden and new. I would make this day last for all time. Give you a night deep in moonshine. If I had words to make a day for you, I'd sing you a morning golden and new. I would make this day last for all time. Give you a night deep in moonshine. Welcome to Mirador Television. Break an egg.
Good morning, and I moved the camera away a little bit because that light behind me, the natural light coming in from the grounds, put a halo around my head, and I'm not at all sure that that is fitting. Haze with a halo, not on your bloody life. But let's get stuck in this morning because, as usual, there are things of concern. First, the weather. Apparently, we are looking ahead to another streak of bad weather, some high winds and gales. But for the moment, today, it's not going to be too bad. The maximum chance of rain is 25%. The temperature is going to nudge 17, which isn't bad. It's not bad for this time of year anyway. And yesterday wasn't a bad day, it wasn't a cold day. The cloud will be scattered, so some sunshine, some cloud. Right now, it's a broken cloud, and the breeze certainly hasn't started because my wonderful trees, which tell me what's happening in the weather front, they are as still as they possibly could be. No movement at all. So that's the day that you can expect from the weather. Right. Okay. Now, splattered all over the headlines on the mainstream media this morning is the fact that the public sector are going to get a wage rise, and that any caps are going to be taken off other wages. So, in other words, up they can go. Now, I'm not even an economist. I'm just an old hack who ended his career as a business journalist. Not that I haven't ended my career, but I ended a mainstream career as a business journalist. And it seems to me that with inflation, price rises, labor shortages, food shortages, and so on, is the last thing we needed was a pay rise. No, I'm not against a pay rise for public sector workers, some public sector workers. I'm not against a pay rise for nurses and care workers. I'm not against a pay rise for the people who are bin men. And incidentally, Brighton is still a stinky old hole, even though it would appear that an agreement has been reached to end that particular bin man's strike in Brighton. But what I do think is that the mix is potent. Maybe we can get away with it, but maybe we can't. Now, I'm torn. If I've had admiration for Boris, it's because he is a risk taker. I'm a risk taker. And, if every 10 every 10 chances you take is 9 of them don't turn out. But when the 10th does, you feel very good about it. And you know that it flourishes and does a lot of good in the community and in society. And Boris is a gambler. And actually, he's got away with some things when perhaps all the odds were stacked against him. It reminds me of James Bond in the casinos in the south of France, just before he went out and killed everybody, or at least the enemy. But at the moment, we are in a very difficult position. And the news headlines this morning, the newspaper headlines, which we'll go to in just a moment, are all about the fact that we are going to get a public pay sector rise, and just what is it going to do to our economy. And the question is, who is going to pay for it? Boris believes that the economy is becoming stronger and stronger, and that therefore we will be able to pay for it out of our good, honest labor. But there are lots of indications that that is not true when you get to the get to the coalface. We're short of all sorts of people in various sectors, and the supermarket shelves are still only partly stocked. Lots of notices. Sorry, we can't get this. Sorry, we can't get that. Funny that actually the things that they can't get are always the cheapest. £1, nothing on the shelves. Same product at £3.50 with the brand on it is plenty. He said, does that tell you something? Yes, it does. So I'm being mild this morning. The other thing that I continue to hammer at, and Rich is beginning to frighten the hell out of me, is that we are all sleepwalking to being ruled and governed by the Triffids. And by the Triffids, I mean computers. More and more and more, the evidence is that business, they can't get people, so they're letting the computers run their business. The thing is that the computer only does what it was told last to do. Is that true? Some computers are beginning to take on human characteristics. Artificial intelligence is becoming frightening in itself and costing us lots of jobs. Well, is it costing us jobs? It's realigning the jobs that are available, which means that we need to be trained. But there is every evidence that training is the last thing that people want to pay for when budgets are tight. I think we're in a bit of a mess, to be quite honest with you. Just a bit of a mess. How long have I been ranting on about now? Oh, I've been on for 8 minutes. So let's take a look at the front pages for the 26th of October, 2021. It's a Tuesday morning. Not a bad morning outside, if we want to look at it from that point of view, but let's see what the newspapers are saying. The Mirror, the filth and the fury. On the front line of the Tories' war on our rivers and seas. And there is a controversial vote that took place the other day, and locally people are blaming our local Tory MP, Maria Caulfield, for voting what appeared to be against stopping sewage seeping into the ocean, raw sewage, when in fact I think that when Hardy comes to Hardy, it looks as if she actually voted because she didn't think that the legislation that was in front of the House could do the job properly. Let's give her the benefit of the doubt. Let's hope that that's why and how she voted and that it's effective. But the Mirror, the filth and the fury. And the Daily Express, 8 million to get wage rise as Rishi makes work pay. So 8 million people are going to get a rise. What it'll be, I think tomorrow is budget day, and in the budget he will tell us exactly how he intends to handle the economy. The last budget, which we looked at, and we looked at closely, he was all smoke and mirrors. He's a very fine speech maker, is our Rishi. He does an excellent job of making us all want to cheer. Very quite Churchillian in some ways. A good presence, a good orator, a good flag waver, a good put downer. yes, he's got it all except the substance. Will he have substance tomorrow? Because the substance of the last one, which after everybody waving the flag, hearing him, started to analyze, turned out to be not so much the panacea that we needed at the time. And we've suffered. Is this one going to be the same? Well, it'll be interesting to see. And that's tomorrow. So expect wage rises for the public sector, which means that then the private sector will have to follow suit to keep their prime workers. It'll all start spiraling upwards. The only people who are left behind are people like you and I. And I say that because I think that most people who watch this program aren't exactly spring chickens. So we're in a bit of a state, aren't we? Yes. Just to those of you who are interested, it's 8:22 on Tuesday, the 26th of October. 17 degrees today, not bad. A bit breezy, but not too bad, and it's not there yet. Although there's slight movement in the far tree, so perhaps the breeze is beginning to start. The chance of rain only 25%, but still watch out for it. And the clouds scattered. We will see a little bit of sun here and there throughout the day. All right, back to the papers. The Daily Mail, Secret of Lasting Love. Oh no, that's one of those silly nonsense things. Rishi's pay rise for 7 million, but how will we afford it? That's the Daily Mail. The Times, brace for a winter of rising costs, drivers are told. So all over the place, I assume that means that petrol is going to go up, insurance is going to go up, all the things to do with owning a car. I'm happy to say I don't own a car anymore. I gave it up as not necessarily at the time too expensive, but I was living right in the heart of Lewes. I got a bus at the doorstep. I got to a train station, 5 minutes walk. I could go anywhere. And for that matter, it is an airport only 30 minutes away by train. So the transport good. And a nice taxi company. I always use what I call George and Mildred, G&M taxis, who have been here for quite a long time. And as broadcasters, we had something to do with them going right back to 1997 when we started K-Burn Radio. And taxi drivers acted as our spies out in the traffic to let us know where there were trouble and so on. And I always use them. And when I go in and I say George and Mildred, they know exactly who's on the way. And then all the drivers scatter and say, oh, God, I don't want him again. But there you are. Actually, the bus driver yesterday recognized my hat. He doesn't recognize my face. Nobody ever does. But they recognize the hat. And I said to him, I'm trying to sell this for £175,000 plus one, because that's what the Trilby that Harrison Ford wears in his movies got at auction. And mine has seen much more exposure than his. It's more battered, and it gets a very kind comment. If there is one thing that I do have people stop me in the street, it's not to say, hey, Hayes, saw you on telly, or hey, Hayes, why were you saying this, or whatever. But they compliment me on the hat and recognize the hat long before they recognize the person. The fame at last. Right, The Guardian. Sunak to scrap public sector pay freeze amid the cost of living crisis. And cost of living crisis there is. But there are always those of us who seem to be left behind every time something happens and the government seeks to redress it. The wonderful Daily Star. You wait ages for a bus and none come along. What the Star is saying is the bus companies can't get bus drivers anymore because they are all switching to being HGV drivers because they can get 70 grand a year driving the heavy goods vehicles, for which we have no drivers at the moment, and we need them to carry goods from source of supply to the retailers, supermarkets, and shops, and so on. So the good old Star. I just love that newspaper. But it says you wait ages for a bus and none come along, because the old thing is you wait ages for a bus and then 3 come along all at once. Well, now the papers say none come along. The Daily Telegraph, pay rise for 5 million public sector workers. The Eye, Sunak warned on lack of cash for schools. That's another issue that starts to get pushed into the background, is how are we doing with, now that children are back to school, how are we doing with funding their education? I think that generally speaking, they get a fair chunk. What worries me is that so much seems to go, it doesn't matter whether it's NHS, schools, or other quangos, if you like, government services or social services, which we all need. Oh dear, 16 minutes I've been going, I've got to get off. A lot of it goes on the monolithic administration. And there are more and more complaints now locally in the social media outlets like Lewis Crescent and so on, are people who are finding it difficult to see a doctor. And I must say that has been my experience, and I am very happy about it. All right, okay. The Independent, touch and go for COP26 success, warns Johnson. Apparently Boris gave a speech to some school kids the other day and said, recycling and so on is all very well, but it doesn't go anywhere near enough. And of course, he's been misquoted, or has he been misquoted? I don't know. But the Independent are saying, Johnson is saying, I don't know about COP26 because we seem to be concentrating on the little things and not the bigger picture. The Financial Times, spy agencies recruit Amazon to host top secret intelligence files. Well, I don't know what that's all about really, except that once again, is a spy service is now going to rely upon computers and computing and looking at things online, then we're in trouble. Dear old James Bond, he may be there waving his hand on the silver screen and everybody saying this is the best Bond by far. But the real Bonds are giving in to the computers, and I'll be damned if I can understand how the computers are going to spy. And they cannot handle the Triffids. People have said to me, actually, depending upon your age, most people who are, let's say over 50, know what a Triffid is. Those people under 50 have no idea. A Triffid was a plant that came from outer space, and man utilized it to produce oil until one night there was a starburst and mankind all went blind, and the Triffids took over, and they ruled man as opposed to the other way around. Well, that's what's happening with computers, in my view, and I am really very, very concerned about it, because it doesn't matter what the individual says, going to a bank, going to a surgery, going to anywhere, and it's always a damn computer that is ruling the roost. And yet we don't seem to realize it. We do not seem to realize it. I personally would throw every computer out of everywhere and start again. Yes, of course we need computers. They're wonderful things, but we need to use them, not allow them to use us. Because if they start to use us in real terms, particularly with artificial intelligence, we could be in trouble. Slavery would take on a different word. That's it for this morning. What a wonderful warning it's been. I've enjoyed that rant enormously. Let's wait for the budget tomorrow and see what's all going to come. Come good, come bad, come whatever. So toodle pip. And look forward to seeing you either later today, if anything happens of consequence. Oh, incidentally, one thing that is happening here is that there seems to be a rapid rise in the number of rape cases. And that reflects the fact that we've got a dangerous world out there. And that's something else we need to pay attention to. We need coppers back on the beat. Toodles.
But I know what it takes. I'm motivated by a mix of emotions.